is burning and itching. North of downtown on 4th Street, water is still car hood high.
Where the line begins.
And right now we're just doing what we can with the trays. We don't have our
We can go back, but it means there is life after this flood. And just know that we're in there to help carry you through, and we will help one another, and we will make it through. We've had requests and offers of funding and service from all across the community. And I know we are working on getting one established personal assistance fund, and I'm not exactly sure how that will work. It's legally being checked out right now, and I would encourage that this fund be to help people immediately. And a nephew now that I look at every morning, my son went to work today, and they say, what do we do today? And I thought, oh my goodness. So they, you know,
In addition, Sanford says the state will provide basic financial support for the school district
to get the schools operating as
soon as possible. Sanford hopes the district will be able to offer a modified summer school program. The closure does not pertain to the Grand Forks Air Force Base.
Over the city and much of the flatland surrounding it. The water is still rising downriver,
where now many communities are preparing for the worst. The town of Drayton lies 45 miles north of Grand Forks, and that is where our Carol Lynn is located this morning. Carol, good morning.
Community, literally buildings and trees
underwater, fires raging, out of control simply because the rescue workers cannot get to them. Part of the problem, though, is that they've got to get very quickly, even days before the river crests, because as the situation shows in Grand Forks, the water can rise very quickly, cutting off access to roads that can get people safely out of town.
And that's
still hardest hit with 90% of that city underwater. And that is where ABC's Lisa Salters is this
morning. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Elizabeth.
Still here. The devastation has not changed much over the past several days. Homes still being swept off their foundations by the floodwaters. Residents forced to leave everything behind, and authorities still racing to make sure that everyone is safe.
Ruth, it's the police department.
For the thousands of flood refugees, newspaper headlines describe the nightmare that is their lives. It's a burden that's becoming increasingly harder to bear.
You know, you'll sit
in my life seeing anything like this. Most of the rest of us can't imagine. We can imagine facing a flood and a fire and a blizzard all at the same time.
And animals, all of which pose a health risk. But amidst so much hopelessness, there are also stories of triumph here, like the a team of volunteers has spent the last few days rescuing cats, birds, and dogs.
He made it fine.
This entire community has promised to make it too. The floodwaters.
More of the same horrible conditions here. It will be several weeks before the waist-deep water begins to recede, several weeks before residents are allowed to go back to their homes, and even then, many are wondering, what will they have left to go back to? Elizabeth?
Some stories of real strength in the face of hardship. Thank you, Lisa. In upper North Dakota, flooding problems are just beginning. The Red River is expected to crest Friday in the town of Drayton. ABC's Carol Lynn is there and joins us live. Carol, after seeing what happened in Grand Forks, folks must be awfully anxious about those approaching flood.
Very anxious. In fact, the town of Drayton is now a ghost town, and it may appear that I'm actually standing on a river bank, but I am standing on Main Street, Drayton. Behind me,
That looks like a water bucket from here. It drops about
2,000 gallons each drop.
You must have a fire going somewhere again.
Yeah.
cigarette advertising. In Texas, the FBI has found that missing truck carrying unarmed missiles. They will now charge the driver
with theft. And on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, simple technology that makes our lives easier and safer.
Check Jay Ryder out today. We specialize in helping people with credit problems.
6 a.m. and 6 p.m. The Channel 9 Eyewitness Weather Team will get you ready to weather.
Know that it's an ill wind that's blowing pretty darn good when you can't even stay in the batter's box.
If I'm Olivier McDowell, I'm grabbing onto one of Cecil's legs and holding on for dear life. It gets any tougher. Guaranteed Cecil's not going anyplace. Canseco, towering pop, but this ought to be interesting. It's coming back toward first base. Fielder can't get it.
This is actually maybe the first time that I recall they're going to call a game on the wind. The umpires are now, well, they're going to stop it.
Can't beat them? Well, sometimes you just gotta go through them. Oh, you could probably always go over them. But the fact is, most walls leave you no choice.